right. Good morning. Good afternoon. Good afternoon. You guys look how I feel. Beautiful. Beautiful. Right? Man. Looking good. All right. It's good to see you guys. My name is Tony. If you guys don't know, I am the pastor in this place. Man, still such an empty role. Man, so sad. Only, only, only our brave young lady here in blue. Man. Candy, oh yeah, shit. Man, I don't want to bribe y'all to sit in front with me. Man. But that's actually a pretty good idea. Yeah. Cool. That's my wife. All right. Come on in. All right, guys, man, it's good to see you guys. I just got back from yeah. Woo-hoo. Man. Praise the Lord. All right. I just got back from a retreat. It was a great retreat. I was up in Yucaipa at my buddy's church called South Bay Mission Church in South Bay. It's a great community. Love that place. But we were playing games, man. I was thinking to myself, like, that church is very gracious when it comes to games, right? Because if they pulled what they try to pull at TLC retreat with those games, I think the game masters would have been massacred. Like, they would have been absolutely destroyed, right? They played Jeopardy. Let me share a story. They played Jeopardy. And one of the questions, I don't know, who came up with the questions? One of the questions was what country is barely an island, right? What country is barely an island, right? You're thinking like, England, maybe Ireland, they're connected somehow, or even Australia as a continent, like maybe there's like a pun. You know what the answer was? Peru, right? Peru, right? I'm like, hey, I've been to Peru. I'm pretty sure Peru borders the ocean, but it's nowhere close to being an island. And I thought, like, if that was to be asked in our church, game masters would have been massacred, right? Or another question was like, what state barely touches another state, right? And the answer was Alaska, right? Alaska. Man, you probably thought the way they thought, because I was like, what is going on? Canada is not a state, right? It's not a state. Man, this is something that's stripping out, but they were very gracious to their game master, right? But I told them, like, hey, don't ever try to play these games here, okay? You might get killed. And they were like, oh, okay, good to know. But I just got back. I love sharing at retreats. It's a great time just to go share, eat, meet the Lord, relax, see nature, right? But I'm glad to be back here because we got a good word for you today. We're in a series called Prayer of the Saints. And this series is a journey for us to come to a place where we can earnestly pray to God, right? Earnestly pray and learn how to pray to God the way that the saints of old prayed to God. And 2 weeks ago, we learned how Abraham, when he prayed in such a way where he prayed for a city. He prayed for enemies. He prayed for people who did not in any way deserve that type of prayer. But he prayed for their benefit. He asked the Lord face to face, would you spare them? And it's a kind of reminder to us that there's something in our prayer life that's missing. If there is no hunger or nor desire to pray for those who are in need of prayer. To pray for those who don't even know that they're in need of prayer. There's something missing in that. That we've turned our prayers very inwardly and very selfishly. And then last week, we talked about the prayer of Moses. How he said, you know what, God, I don't want to reach for my own personal vain glory. I want to see your glory. Show me your glory. I don't want to run after this false sense of value of what makes me feel like I matter, but I want to run towards you, the glory that's yours. And it's a prayer of just realigning our focus, realigning our attention back to who God is. And today, we have the first woman prayer, right? It's a prayer of Hannah. Hannah, the mother of Samuel, the last judge of Israel. The last judge of Israel. And this man, this woman who gave birth to Samuel was the last judge who anointed the first king of Israel. And he was the one judge that actually saved all Israel through his leadership. But we're going to see Hannah's prayer. Because Hannah's prayer is indicative of a lot of the feelings and the emotions that maybe a lot of us are going through. a lot of you ladies and even a lot of you brothers are going through. It is a prayer or it's a need to chase after what we feel gives us worth. You see in her prayers, you see throughout her struggle, this journey of chasing after worth. Wanting it, hungry for it. There's a beautiful seat next to my wife right here. Yay. Right? There's a hunger and a wanting and a desire for worth. And as we unfold her story, hopefully we can kind of transform the way we think and instead of chasing after worth, we begin to chase after the one who gives worth. Right? And that's my hope and that's my prayer today. So open your Bibles to 1 Samuel chapter 1. Let me break down some context for you. There's a guy named Elkanah, right? He had 2 wives. That's how you know he has problems already, right? He has 2 wives. Throughout the Bible, people always say, the Bible promotes polygamy. No, it does not. The Bible tells you in every story, when a man has 2 wives or multiple wives, it's always a bad story. It's never a good story where a man has multiple wives and things went well for that man, right? The Bible it talks about polygamy, but never talks about in a happy life. So here he is. He has 2 wives. One wife is named Peninnah. Sounds like Panini, but it's Peninnah, right? She has multiple sons and daughters, right? And there's another wife named Hannah, who was barren. But the problem was the husband was willing and gave double portions to Hannah because he loved her. He loved her more than Peninnah. And because of his love for Hannah, Peninnah did what? Made Hannah feel worthless. She made her feel like she didn't matter. She rubbed it in her face. Like, I have children. You have none. Right? You're worthless. She made her feel that way. And this is this brokenness in the family. Right? All due to having 2 wives. Right? So, moral of the story first. Only have one. Okay, guys? Only have one. All right. 1 Samuel chapter 1, verse 4. Let me read that to you guys. Verses 4. Whenever the day came for Elkanah to sacrifice, he would give portions of the meat to his wife, Peninnah, and to all her sons and daughters. So she was a woman who had children, many children, sons and daughters, right? Plural. But to Hannah, he gave a double portion because he loved her, and the Lord had closed her womb. And because the Lord had closed her womb, her rival kept provoking her in order to irritate her. This went on year after year, and whenever Hannah went up to the house of the Lord, her rival provoked her till she wept and would not eat. Elkanah, her husband, would say to her, Hannah, why are you weeping? Why don't you eat? Why are you downhearted? Don't I mean more to you than 10 sons? And once, when they finished eating and drinking in Shiloh, Hannah stood up. Now Eli, the priest, was sitting on a chair by the doorpost of the Lord's temple. In bitterness of soul, Hannah wept much and prayed to the Lord. And she made a vow, saying, O Lord Almighty, if you would only look upon your servant's misery and remember me, and not forget your servant, but give her a son, then I will give him to the Lord for all the days of his life, and no razor will ever be used on his head. And that's where we're going to start. So let me break this down a little bit to you guys, okay? 3 things as we try to learn this idea of chasing worth. We're going to understand her actual pain, why she was chasing this, what caused her to have this undescribable inward pain that's going on. We're going to understand the depth of it, the context of it. And then we're going to see what she did to change that. What she did to kind of reverse that effect and the power to do that. You guys follow me? We're going to see the depth of the ability of what's going on that's debilitating her, that's causing her this inward turmoil, inward pain. And then we're going to see how she went about changing that, what she did to change her heart, to get her out of that position, and the power to do so. All right? So, first of all, her pain. Let's talk about her pain. Okay? The Bible used certain words to kind of help you understand the description of what's going through her mind. At verse 10, if you go there real fast, it says she had bitterness of soul. Bitterness of soul. She wasn't just bitter that her rival, Peninnah, was kind of like provoking her and kind of like making her feel stupid, making her feel worthless. She actually felt it deep within. She felt like she was missing something. She felt like she wanted it so badly, but she could not have it. So there was this deep agony that was in her heart over and over. You know that feeling when you really wanted something and you end up not being able to get it? Like say you're in line for an iPhone, right? The one that just came out, and you're in line for like 3 days, right? And you're walking, you're thinking you're about to get it, and the person in front of you got the last one, and they said, I'm sorry, we're out. I mean, that agony that you feel, right? Times it by 100. That's probably close to where she's feeling, right? It's this bitterness of soul. And then what did she do? She wept much and prayed to the Lord. The Hebrew word for wept here is not just like, oh, she cried, but she wailed. Have you guys ever wailed before when you cry? I've never wailed. I don't understand how that looked like, but I can imagine it's very, very awkward for everyone else around you, right? It's just like this. It's like there's this wailing, and there's this agony, is this almost a shrieking type of cry. Like, why in the world is this happening to me? It's like recognizing something terrible happened to you at that moment, and just this burst of tears that came out of you. The only time I ever heard a wail, like a really agonizing wail that kind of shook my soul, right, was I was at a hospital once. I was volunteering, and this lady, she took a bunch of pills that she wasn't supposed to, and the nurse was like, I'm sorry what I'm about to do to you because it's going to hurt. And he asked me to just walk outside. And so he said, don't walk outside, actually go down, just go down. Go down the hall as far as you can, right? And I was like, okay, so just keep going. I went down, and all of a sudden, there was a scream, right? It felt like the whole entire floor shook. It was this humongous, agonizing, painful, life-shattering scream, right? And I felt it. I felt what I wasn't even in the middle of the procedure, but I felt the pain, whatever he did, to kind of suck all that stuff out of her, right? I felt the pain. That's the type of wailing and weeping that Hannah was going through, right? And on top of that, look at verse 6. She has an annoying figure in her life, her rival, Peninnah, and because the Lord had closed her womb, her rival kept provoking her in order to irritate her. This wasn't kind of like, hey, ha, ha, ha. It was, the irritating was like, get off me, right? Stop. It was like a roaring irritation. It was like, stop it. Like, how dare you? You push her away. You can imagine, Hannah screaming at this other lady, screaming at her husband's other wife, because of how irritated and how broken, how angry, and how upset she was about the situation. And why was she so upset? Why did she have such a bitterness of soul, wailing? Because she could not bear children. Now, a lot of you, when you hear that, you're thinking, oh, I get it. And I know people couldn't have children, and that was very difficult for them, or people had children, they lost their children. It must be very difficult. I can relate. The answer is, no, you can't, right? It's an emotional understanding. You have an emotional understanding of it, but the Western idea of having no children versus the ancient culture of having no children is two different ideas. It's so diametric that you cannot even possibly fathom what Hannah's going through. So let me give you some context so you can get this, okay? Because it's very important. You have to understand what she is going through to understand why she is chasing this so deeply. All right? Children in the ancient world, having children in the ancient world is basically a matter of life and death. It's a matter of life and death, right? If you had children in the ancient world, it guaranteed economic status. The more children you have, the more economically feasible you are to survive. Do you know why? Because children are free labor, right? The more children you have in a family, the more work that you can produce. The more work you can produce, the more income you can bring in, right? So the less children you have, the less beneficial it is for the family. It's all about the family. So a woman who could not bear many children or children at all was an economic failure to the family. The more children you have, the richer your family becomes. Whether you are a farmer, carpenter, shoemaker, business, whatever, you always work in the family business. And the more children you have, the more people you have to work in that business with you. Right? And secondly, having children meant future security. Most children don't live, right? 4 out of 10 children don't live back then. 4 out of 10 children, right? 4 out of 10 children will survive. The rest will die, right? 4 out of 10 children will survive, the rest will die. That means that you have to have a lot of children because there was no Social Security, no welfare, no Medicare back then. The only way that you can survive in your old age is that your children is going to care for you. Your children is going to be there to help provide for you. And if you are a tribe, right, the more children you have, the more security you have for your tribe. Because if a tribe has lots of children versus a tribe who does not have a lot of children, and these two tribes kind of come at it with each other, guess what's going to happen? the tribe with more children is going to survive and win because they're going to beat up the tribe with less, right? It's a matter of life and death. So you see that if a woman had children, many children back then, she was considered a hero for the family. A literal hero for the family. She was celebrated. She was honored. She was given worth and value and esteem and privilege. She was a woman that they call a hero because you have given us children. And a woman who could not bear children was considered absolutely worthless. Absolutely worthless. And for a culture like that, because of that structure of that culture, it pushes women to chase after children as their sense of worth and value. You guys follow me? It forced and pushed women to chase after having children to give them their worth and their value. It made them idolize their children. It made them idolize their family. They took a good thing, which is a family. It's great to have children, it's great to have family, but they made it into an ultimate thing that my life would have no worth. My life would have no meaning unless I have children. And you're thinking to yourself, man, that sucks. What a horrible culture to be living in. What an oppressive culture to be alive in. And the reality is what? You are in the same oppressive culture. Maybe in our culture, you're not given the mandate to have children. Some of you guys probably don't even want to have children, which is very sad, but some of you guys don't even want to have children. Right? But you know what? You know what the pressure that you guys have, though? Maybe it's not to have children to define your worth, but guess what? You're pushed to be beautiful. You're pushed to look hot. You're pushed to look slim. You're pushed to have the right look, the right clothing, the right hairstyle. Right? You're pushed to pull yourself into a specific way. Because only when you look that way will you find a sense of value, will you find a sense of worth. And so you gaze in the mirror and you always question, do I look thin enough? Do I look fit enough? Do I look slim enough? Do I look hot enough? Do I have the capability to have worth? Right? Do you think back then that those women have eating disorders? No, they don't have eating disorders back then, right? They weren't anorexic or bulimic, right? They didn't have a problem with that because that wasn't what they were chasing after. It wasn't what the culture was telling them. This is what gave you value. But in this culture, what happens? This culture puts before you an image. This is what you're supposed to be. Unless your hair is like this, unless your dress is like this. I always see it because, there's a lot of ladies here, and sometimes after a while, you start wearing the same type of dress, and you start wearing your hairstyle very similar. Like, oh, that must be the new trend, right? I would know, but I was like, oh, that must be the new trend because it seems very similar, right? And I'm wondering, how do you guys all know what to do? I don't know. How do you guys know all at the same time? Like, this is what you need to wear, right? I have no idea how. If you tell me to go to the store, I'm like, pick some clothes out. It would be the same thing. They don't even have baggy jeans anymore, right? I don't even know what to wear. I have no idea what to wear, right? It's like, wife, please help me. Just go to Goodwill. At least someone will donate their baggy jeans for me, right? So it's no idea, but for some reason you do. You know why? Because somewhere in our culture that we've been brought up in, you have this hunger and this wanting to chase after worth as well. And you chase after in terms of beauty, in terms of vanity, in terms of looks. You chase after in terms of, this is how I need to look in order to be deemed worthy and not worthless. Right? You're just as oppressed. You guys follow me? And Hannah realized this. And year after year, she was in this position. She's chasing, she's hoping, if I can just have one kid. Just one kid, Peninnah will no longer mess with me. I will be actually a woman of worth and value. Just give me one kid. Year after year, she could not bear children. And you can imagine her worth. And of course, her husband makes it even worse for her by saying, okay, I'll give you double portion. Why? I don't deserve it. I don't deserve this. You're making me feel like I have to have a handout by you. Right? I'm basically the side chick that you have on the side. Right? That's your real wife because she's giving you children. I'm this girl that's sitting here worthless to your family, to your name. I'm nobody. And you can sense the wanting of chasing after this. Right? And oftentimes, what happens when we chase after something that doesn't really fulfill? Let's chase after something else. Right? It's not working. Let's just chase after a different idol. And guess what her husband does? He offers her a second one. Right? Look at verse 8. He offers her, if you cannot have children, then you can have the next best thing. You can have my love. Verse 8. Okay, I'm not sure if that's a good thing, but, right? No thanks. Elkanah, her husband, would say to her, Hannah, why are you weeping? Why don't you eat? Why are you downhearted? Don't I mean more to you than 10 sons? Look, I love you. That's the next best thing. Seriously, chase after this. And she was caught up in this temptation, right? Here she was, chasing after this worth of having children. It didn't work. Now, a second option is given to her. Do I chase after love? Do I chase after this love? Because maybe if I had this love, I would find worth as well. And for some of us, same thing. Maybe we look in the mirror and like, I don't know, right? You don't feel pretty. You don't feel like you look right. Or, and you say, you know what? Maybe I'll chase after my career. Because if I'm an independent, strong woman who makes it out there, then people will obviously give me respect. People will obviously look upon me with worth and value. If I chase after my career and people see like, oh yeah, look at that, she may be whatever, but like still, right? Double whammy is if actually you think you're beautiful and you have a job, right? You're like, yeah, now I'm definitely worthy. Now I'm definitely a hero to society. Look at me. Well put together woman, money, beauty, can't lose. We chase from one idol to the next idol. You guys see that? It's a chasing of worth. And Hannah was doing the same. Hannah was chasing after the worth of having children, now given the option of love. What does she do? What does she do? And we'll find out in a second. But let me give you an example of this story. Right? I think I might have told her a really long time ago. Can't remember. But when I was a youth teacher, not a youth pastor, right? I felt like the Lord really covered me a lot. Because there's a lot of things I did as a youth teacher that I'm pretty sure if I did now, I would definitely be fired, right? Or sued at least, or like lose every licensing that I have. I'm very sure of it, right? As a youth teacher, we were in this church where there was no female. I thank God so much for TLC, where we have our women's group, we have our female SALT leaders, right? We have women looking after women, right? But back in the youth group, there was no women teacher, right? It was just me and some other male teacher, and we had all these girls, and and all these girls came with a lot of problems, and we didn't really know what to do half the time. We had no idea what to do. We just kind of like try to be as bravado as possible, be like, let me do the best I can to love on you. But we had no idea what we're doing half the time, right? And one of the things I've always noticed about our girls, one of the trends I've always noticed is that if they were a little bit bigger or, and they didn't feel comfortable in being who they are, and they start losing massive amount of weight. Like they'll lose massive amount of weight. I would notice, I would be like, you have a boyfriend? Right? How come you lost so much weight? Like, have you been eating? She's like, yeah, like food, right? Like, yeah, I've lost a lot of weight. It's like, do you have a boyfriend? And they were like, ha ha ha, right? Like, dang, right? That's always number one indication. Also, when this weight start losing, I'm like, we're like, hey, I think there's a boy in her life, dude. We gotta like ask. There has to be a guy, right? And we'll ask, and we're like, oh, this guy's really amazing. You'll love him, blah blah blah, blah 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 blah, right? Long story short, and so. Here she was, this girl, divorced family, broken family, lost a humongous amount of weight because, again, the culture of feeling worth, feeling value is to look a certain way and be a certain way and to have love. So she went opposite way. She chased after every idol because she just wanted to feel a sense of worth. And so I remember 2 a.m, she calls me up and she says, Tony, don't get mad. I said, do never start a sentence with Tony, don't get mad, right? Because everything after that is I will get mad, like, don't get mad. And I can hear echoing. I was like, where are you at? Are you in a closed room? She's like, I'm in the bathroom. I'm like, your bathroom? She's like, no, I'm in his bathroom. It's like 2 a.m? Yep, I'm mad, right? In my head, I'm so pissed, She said, okay, no questions asked, just come get me. And I was like, right? So I got out of my bed, single at that time, so, I can get out at 2 a.m. My wife won't kill me, right? So, Nowadays, you guys call me 2 in the morning. I was like, I'll see you guys at 9, okay? Like 2 in the morning. I was like, all right, help me get out of bed. Drove over there. And, I'm downing Red Bulls trying to get myself wake up. Like all pumped up now, like full of adrenaline. I'm like walking into this door. I'm like, dude, I'm going to kill this fool. All right, why is he in this house? Who knows? God knows what's happening 2 in the morning. I knock on the door like, hey, open the door, right? And then you hear him like Wednesday, oh, shoot, Tony, you're here. She called you? I was like, shut up, open the door, right? And then you'll be like, oh, okay, whatever she said, I can explain. I was like, just open the door. Right? And then, of course, you have the door where you have those the chain lock, and you kind of, hey, Tony, like, let me explain first, right? Again, there are things I did as a youth teacher that I swear if I did now, I would be fired and sued by everybody, right? So anyways, I was like, open the door. He's like, no, let me explain first. I said, no, open the door. And then so, again, Red Bull, I kicked the door, right? Pops him in the face. He opens it, and I'm like, he's in his boxers. And I'm like, why are you in your boxers, right? That was the first time, why are you in your boxers? So I walked up to the bathroom. I was like, get out, go to the car, right? She got out. She's like running to the car, and you see her crying. So I walked out. I was like, damn, I'm a dang, right? I was like, oh, what's going to happen? Like, he's on the ground. He's crying because his eyes is like, bruised up. I'm like, huh. So I was like, what do you do when you're already like messed up? You mess up more, right? So you come and you ask him, hey, so I'm OMTI, right? He said, what do you mean what happened to my eye? You just kicked the door into my face. Like, no, you ran into the door, right? He said, no, Tony, you kicked the door in my face. I'm gonna tell somebody. I'm gonna tell my mom. I was like, you tell your mom I kicked the door. I'm gonna tell her you had to go over at 2 in the morning. And he was like, so what happened? I ran into the door. It's a good answer, right? So I walked out, got into the car, right? We're driving away, and I was like, okay, what happened? Tell me what happened, right? Why are you here 2 in the morning, So the relationship had been 3-4 months, whatever, And she was like, I really wanted to make him happy. I really thought he was the one, blah, blah, blah. And he said, if we just kind of just move on further, let's take one step into our relationship. Let's take one step further. Let's just do something with this, right? And if we can do it, right? If I would sleep with him, he would find we can actually go further in our relationship. So she's saying all these things. She was like between sob, and I said, and you decided to run into the bathroom and hide, right? She's like, no. And she started crying, and I said, so what happened? So why did you end up in the bathroom, right? She was like, because afterwards he was like, maybe we should just be friends, right? Oh my Lord, I was about to like slam on the brakes and like, oh, let's go back right now. It was such a heartbreaking thing, but that's, as I kind of think about that story, as I think about the situations of it, and I realized, man, that is such a umbrella understanding of some of the hearts of the women that we grew that's grown up in this time, right? Where it's a chasing after beauty, it's a chasing after love, right? All for what? All for a sense of worth. All for a sense of, I want to feel like I'm worth something. That I have some sort of value. That it means something. So you make something that's good. You take something that's actually good and you make it into an ultimate thing of your life. What a crazy thing, right? So how did Hannah break out of that? How did Hannah break out of this constant running of chasing and never finding satisfaction, and then being offered a second option of love in the process? What did Hannah do? Did she take it? Did she take this option and say, yes, you know what, screw the children idea. As long as I have the love of my husband, that's good enough for me. No, Hannah didn't do that. Right? Because somewhere along this line, at this moment, Hannah came to a realization. Hannah understood. Hannah had this epiphany that told her the chasing will always be, if I keep chasing after worth, I will never find it. Why not chase after the one who actually gives me worth? And what does she do? Look at verse 9. So she begins to eat. And when they had finished eating and drinking in Shiloh, Hannah stood up. Now, this is not just like she kind of got up after eating, right? She stood up. This was like this moment, those movies where someone has the like defining moment, they stand up and they're like, this is the time, right? That's her. She basically, the word stood up means to arise to do something. Arise and make a decision. And so she was sitting there, she was eating, she was thinking about the offer of her husband. Like, yeah, maybe having that love is good. Maybe chasing after the worth of the children is not enough, right? And she came to the realization, why chase after worth when I can chase after the one who is worth? Why chase after the worth that has been plaguing me, destroying me, that has been debilitating me for years after years, and not chase after the one who is worth. And so she stood up, right, with this decision. And she walked into the temple courts. Look at now Eli, the priest, was sitting on a chair by the doorpost of the Lord's temple. Verse 10, in bitterness of soul, Hannah wept and prayed to the Lord. And she made a vow saying, O Lord Almighty, if you will only look upon your servant's misery and remember me and not forget your servant, but give her a son, then I will give him to the Lord for all the days of his life, and no razor will ever be used on his head. When you read this prayer, you're thinking, she just made a bargain with God. That doesn't seem like she got it. It seems like she's actually just bargaining now with Jesus or with the Father. And the answer is no. If you understand the context of this prayer, you realize that she in that prayer basically forsook anything that would have given her worth and value. In this prayer that she prayed to God, she basically said, no longer am I going to look for my worth in my culture that tells me to have children means I will be a hero, and to not have children means I'm worthless. I'm not going to look at that anymore. No longer am I going to look at chasing after my husband's love as a picture of worth and value. Because there was a third reason why you would have a child. You know what the third reason is? There's a theological reason. There's a godly reason. There's a central reason. And this third reason why you have a child is this. God promised to the Israelite people, to Abraham specifically, saying this to them. Your children, Abraham, will outnumber the sands and outnumber the stars. Your children will bring about the salvation of the world. Your children will bring about the Savior. So every Israelite woman, when she is having children, technically, in the back of her mind, she knew, if she was being spiritual, that this child is part of God's plan in saving the world. You guys following me? But most of the Israelite women don't focus on that. They focus on what? This child is my road to fame. This child is my claim to fame. This child is what's going to give me economic status. This child is going to give me my future security. This child is going to make me a hero. That's what they're thinking about. But Hannah said, nope, no more. No more. I forsake those things. This child, oh Lord my God, this child I will give to you. Now what does that mean? Is she bargaining with God? No, she's not bargaining with God. Look at what she's saying. First, look at her prayer. We'll break down her prayer first. She said this, O Lord Almighty. O Lord Almighty. She comes to God in this weeping agony. And who does she address? She addresses God. His characteristics. This is Jehovah Sabaoth. Right? God the Almighty. God the one whose presence covers the vastness of the universe. God who is infinite. God who is of justice. God who of great value and great understanding. This is the God in whom I am approaching. In my wailing, in my agony, I am not approaching out of a bargaining. I'm approaching you. And what did she say? She said, if you will only look upon your servant's misery and remember me. So this God that she's saying, you, the God who is infinite and vast, there's something I know about you. There's something that I remember about you. There's something that I understand about you. That yes, you are infinite, but yet you are infinitely tender as well. You take this woman, this rural, obscure woman out of nowhere, and you tell me, and I know that my life matters to you. The Almighty God, O Lord Almighty, I know that you still remember me. Obscure, rural, nobody, dust of a woman. I know that I matter to you. I know it. So her vision, her thoughts are realigning. She's not thinking about what they think matters to her, right? She doesn't care about what the second wife deems as what matters to her. She doesn't care about what husbands think what matters to her. She's looking to her God and says, I know that I matter to you. And this is what she says to him. If you will grant me a son, I will give him to the Lord for all the days of his life, and no razor will ever be used on his head. You know what she's saying? The context of her prayer? He's saying, I will give my son into full-time ministry. Right? Right? She just cursed him. But she said, I will give my son to full-time ministry. But you listen to it sounds like a bargain still, PT. It sounds like she's bargaining with God. Because she still gets a son. Right? Back then, if you wanted to go into full-time ministry, there's two ways, only two ways. One, you were born into the tribe of the Levites. Right? That's the Levite tribe. They are known to be priests. But if you were not born into that tribe, you can still be a full-time minister. Do you know how? By becoming a Nazirite. Right? A Nazirite has two criteria. One, you never drink liquor. Two, right? You never shave your head. And what she is saying is, I will dedicate my son to you, and he will stay in the house of God all the days of his life. What was the reason of having children? Economic status. If the son is in the house of the Lord, who is not laboring? The son. He's not working for the family. There is no economic status here. He cannot help the business. He cannot help provide for the family. If the son is in the house of the Lord, there is no future security. He's there. He is to live and die there. He is to be the assistant to the priest. He cannot move from that place. So the very reason why you would have children back then, she forsook it. She surrendered it. She sacrificed it. It means nothing to me because what matters to me now, God, is not the worth of what they tell me is worth. What matters to me now is that I'm chasing after you who gives me true worth. The God Almighty who remembers me, who tells me that my life matters. And so you know what her prayer was indicative of? Her prayer was a prayer of absolute surrender. Absolute surrender. I've only prayed this prayer 4 times in my life, right? 4 times in my life. And this is how I know it's a prayer of surrender versus a prayer of bargaining. When you bargain in a prayer like this, after you pray, what happens? You're still anxious because you're wondering, I'm waiting for you to pull through. Because if you pull through, then I can pull through, right? That's the bargain. But a prayer of absolute surrender is this. No matter the outcome, whatever it may be, no matter the outcome, I'm yours. And when you pray that prayer, you know what the result of that is? Is absolute peace. Look at her, verse 17. Go down to verse 17. All right? So Eli answered, go in peace, and may the God of Israel grant you what you have asked for. She said, may your servant find favor in your eyes. Then she went her way, ate something. Her face was no longer downcast. Early in the next morning, verse 19, they arose and worshipped before the Lord and then went back to their home at Ramah. Elkanah lay with Hannah, his wife, and the Lord remembered her, and she gave birth. Now, look at the sequence of events. Her face was no longer downcast before the baby or after the baby. It came what? Before the baby, right? If it was a bargain, her face would be downcast until when? The baby came. When the baby came, then she said, okay, God kept the side of the bargain. Great, now I'm in, right? Now I should be happy. See, but her original prayer, this is how you knew that she aligned herself and she forsook those chasing that gave her worth and value. When she forsook those things and surrendered completely to God, is that after she prayed that, she said, whether I have a son or not, God, I want this child to do your work. Not even for me. Not for my worth, not for my value, not for my esteem, not for my privilege, not for my security. This child is for your ends. Beforehand, when people will come to the Lord, they'll pray for their children. They'll ask God, and their child will be the end of it. God is the means, their children is the end. But Hannah switched the prayer up, and she said, you are the end, God, and my child is the means. Whatever you want with him, he's yours. If you give it to me, great. If you don't, fine. I will give it to him. No matter if I have him or not, it is yours. For your plan and for your work to do your will. You guys follow me? It's a realignment. She no longer chased after worth. She chased after the one who gives worth. And she did that through a complete prayer of absolute surrender. Absolute surrender. There was nothing but peace afterwards. You see, if you pray by bargaining, you're always going to feel anxious. But you know you're praying in fullness with God when at the end of it, you walk away at peace because your alignment is now for His heart, not for your own personal heart. And what was the result? What was the result? Remember I told you, when the Israelite woman gave birth, she was in the process. They knew theologically that that child will be in part of God's plan to save the world. Right? Right? And so Hannah now, fully surrendering her sense of worth and value, no longer chasing after it, and saying, you know what? It is for you, O God, for which I will give my life. What happens to this child? It's Samuel, the last and the most prolific judge of all the judges of Israel. He is the final judge. And he was the judge to save Israel and anointed the first king. And anointed King David as well afterwards. He was Samuel, where all of Israelites came under him. And God used Samuel to save the people. You guys following me? How do we have the power to do this? Hannah had no idea what she was doing. All she knew was that her focus is on God. She suffered and sacrificed, right, to save the world. That was her mindset. Her mindset is, I will sacrifice and I will surrender and I will go through this agony, not for my own personal will, but that you, God, would use whatever I have to save the world. Whatever I can give you to save the world. She had no idea the picture that's happening. And yet we have a fuller picture of it. How? Jesus Christ. The one who suffered, the one who sacrificed, the one who surrendered to save the world. So the pattern is this. If our prayer, if you in your life begin to seek and come to a place where you are praying a surrender, praying a sense of sacrifice, you ask yourself, how can I actually trust and know that God will pull through? How can I trust and know that God will use that for something better? With Hannah, He brought Samuel. With Jesus, He saved the world. With you, when you finally stop chasing after the things that you think gives you worth, a boyfriend, a girlfriend, your work, your business, a career, children, if you stop chasing after what you feel and what you think gives you your actual worth, and you chase after the one who actually gives you worth, the result is what? He takes your life. He takes your heart, He takes your surrender, and He molds it into His plan to bring about the saving of this world. That is the prayer of Hannah, right? A prayer of complete surrender. Church, my heart sometimes breaks when I watch you guys just chasing, right? You may not think that I know you're chasing. The reality is I know you're chasing. You are chasing and you're chasing and you want to make your own mistakes and you want to learn and experience blah 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 that you do. But can I tell you the truth? The chasing that you're doing is leaving you nowhere. It will only just take you further and further, chasing after one thing to the next thing to the next thing. If I'm chasing after this and this doesn't give me worth, I'm going to jump to the next one to give me worth. See, Hannah got it. She got it from the beginning. She chased after having a baby, having a child to give her a worth. When she couldn't get that, her husband offered her the next thing, which is chasing after love. But she was smart enough. She was a smart woman, and she came to the discernment to realize chasing does not give victory. Chasing after worth only destroys. Why not chase after the one who is worth? And so she came to a place that was very difficult for her, and she surrendered it. I don't want it no more. I don't even have to have a kid. I don't even have to have the love. But if you would give it to me, oh God, then everything of it is yours. This, what you give, will be the means for your end. I will not exist so that you will be the means to my end. I will exist so that my life will be a means to your end. And when we have that heart, when we have that prayer, then you will see God work. When you see, then you will see God work. when you surrender. 4 times in my life I prayed that prayer, guys. Right? I prayed the bargaining prayer a billion times, okay? But 4 times I prayed that, and I knew it hit, because every time I prayed it, I knew it was going to happen. You know why? Because there was peace after. It was real, genuine, absolute peace. And each time, kid you not, right? It was a mark of a transformation of my life. Each moment. My journey, of my life's journey, my family's journey, my destiny, it just changed every time. Right? Pray. Stop chasing after what is worth, what gives you worth, what you think gives you worth, and chase after the one that gives worth by surrendering. Surrendering. Stop holding on, but surrender.